Hello, good people. We're back here. It's been a while since we had a chat about one of my favorite sports, football. But I'm back here today with Mr. Michael Kwambo to have a candid discussion about what's still happening in the world of football today. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm good. Just dealing with Monday blues, I guess, but I'm good.
Monday blues. Well, I've had a good day so far. I'm looking forward to this conversation because I want to pick your brain. I want to pick your brain about several different things. So we're going to cover a couple of topics. We're going to talk about the Premier League. We're going to talk about Champions League, and then what we expect towards the rest of the season in the Premier League and in Europe. So let's kick it off. Right now, we can say congratulations to Liverpool for winning the Champions League, winning the English Premier League, and they've done it with plenty of games to spare. It's embarrassing for the rest of the league. I think it's embarrassing for us for being a bridesmaid for the two previous years. Looks like we may not even be the bridesmaid this year. Looks like we may slip beyond second. What are your thoughts on Arsenal doing the Guard of Honor and where we are so far at the end of the season?
Well, I think Arsenal doing the guard of honor, they really have to look at themselves and wonder why isn't it not them in the position of the champions? Because they really slipped up several times. You cannot even blame the VAR and harsh officiating decisions. They've slipped up when it mattered, and Liverpool simply, it's like you go into a marathon as a pace setter and you realize, hey, these
Mhm.
guys are not catching up, and you go all the way. So that's what Liverpool have done. For Arsenal, they were expected to be the title favorites this season. Manchester City falling off the pace. Obviously, they're going through a rebuilding cycle. But yeah, you asked about Arsenal. Their incompetence has handed Liverpool the title.
I think that analogy is so profound. It's been a while since I watched a race where the pace setter went out so hard and nobody kept up and just kept going and they closed the deal. And that's literally exactly what Liverpool did. They had a robust defense, solid midfield, and they had six people up top that could score goals. So when one guy was off, the other guy stepped up. So credit to them. It hurts, but Liverpool have silverware. Um, we also have Newcastle, who picked up some silverware in that final, the Carabao Cup final, which I got to watch in London after the game. And I gotta tell you, watching a cup final in a British pub, a big British pub, is something special. So
I
when
was,
you get
I was
to
about to ask you about the experience, and then you've definitely taken the words out of my mouth. And then also it being Newcastle, they hadn't won a title since 1955, if I'm not wrong.
it was the 50s. I can't remember the exact date, so I'm gonna trust you on that. But the Geordie fans in that pub were absolutely stoked. They were abusing everyone. The chests were out. The poor Liverpool guys in that pub were quiet. The Arsenal guys were in the corner saying, "Oh, maybe we'll get a league," and everybody was laughing. But it's a great atmosphere. We laughed. We met a bunch of British guys, and we had a great time. So, and then we have an FA Cup final where Crystal Palace or City will have they will have a cup to add to their name. I'm rooting for Palace just because we're tired of City winning everything. And then the nightmare of all nightmares. The teams in 15th and 16th place, Manchester United and Tottenham, very likely to make a Europa Cup final and end with a cup, which will make their season better than our season. Your thoughts? I don't know. What do you think of that?
Um, I was watching a podcast earlier today, which was also debating the same predicament that Tottenham and Manchester United are in. And the argument was that that is a lower tier competition in comparison to the Champions League. And therefore, if it is Manchester United, who I think as of now have lost 16 matches, and
Mhm.
Tottenham Hotspurs, who have lost 19 matches, if they were to win those pieces of silverware, it would still not be as successful as the Arsenal finishing wherever they finished. That was one school of thought, but I tend to think that that was deluded because they were also arguing that um, for Newcastle having won the Carabao Cup, going home with that trophy, it
Mhm.
would be more successful. But I'm now coming down to what I think. I think, you
Yeah.
know, if you close out the season with silverware,
Mhm.
it's more successful. And look, it's on the European stage, so there's a lot of prestige when it comes to that. Close of argument.
And it comes with a Champions League berth, regardless
Yes,
of
it
the
does.
finish.
That, yeah, for the Europa League, right? Yeah.
Mhm. So your team instantly becomes more attractive. The people who would not have considered you like a few weeks ago will take a look at Spurs or Manchester United, right? They'll give them a chance. They'll
They,
have a discussion.
yeah, they sure will.
And if anything, it'll be interesting to watch that final because I think Ange made a promise that he wins something in his second season. He's basically a dead man walking. Sounds like he's already been fired. They're just letting him play this out. But wouldn't it be something special to watch Ange go and win a cup after the
Yeah,
most abysmal season? And he can say,
yeah,
you know what, I kept my promise to you guys.
yeah. Let me try and butcher his Australian accent and say, it would be good on him, mate.
Yeah, but we'll watch. I actually think Tottenham are probably better positioned to win that final. If they have a healthy squad, which looks like they're coming back to full health, you have Van de Ven, Romero, you have Bentancur in the midfield, you've got Udogi, you've got Jet Spence, and you've got those guys up top in Tel, Kulusevski, Son, and Richarlison. I honestly think that they'll go and they'll probably beat Manchester United comfortably in that final. So
Sure,
definitely,
and yeah, and this knockout football is suited to the kind of tactics that Ange deploys. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Much like Arsenal, as much as we'd hate to admit it, Tottenham and Arsenal play a very similar style. It's good for knockout, not very good when you're playing to preserve a lead, or playing a team that's playing a low block. But they play good open football, so it'll be an interesting final. Which brings us to the semi-final that's happening tomorrow. Did you catch any of the highlights or the game for the Inter Barca game last week?
Yes, I caught Lamine Yamal score an audacious goal, and just to digress, I probably want to say that I compare Yamal at 17 and Messi at 17. I think Yamal is a lot more exciting because Messi at 17 was a robot.
Yeah,
Um, Yamal reminds me of a young Pele, playing the game literally from the bottom of his heart, doing whatever he feels like. He's the guy. So,
good night. Mm, good night. All right, bye bye. That's my track star.
yes.
Okay, but yeah, like you're saying, and the kid is he's 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 so, how do you describe it? He's so untethered. He's not worried about playing to the structure. He's playing to his strengths. And credit to Hansi Flick, not trying to over control a young kid with that talent. He's a prodigious talent, and he's letting him just play his game. And the kid is, if you're good enough, you're old enough, and
you
he's
know,
he's
Sorry to
proved.
jump in. Isn't it a bit interesting, probably even ironic, that it's a German coach who's letting this player play uninhibited soccer because we know the Germans for all their routine and
Yeah,
rigor.
Germans are very known to be, like you said, very structured, very regimented in how they do things. Hansi Flick is, I think that's why he didn't last in the German squad so long, because he's very offensive minded. He's not as structured in his play. If you watch the Bayern sides that played over the last few seasons before he left, they were very exciting to watch. They weren't built on like that rigid defense on the back. We play technically through the midfield and we just choke you to death. They could beat you in a variety of ways. And so he's taken that to Barcelona. He's only on 3 million a year. So I don't know if we can go and maybe bid for him. He might take 5 million a year. And we can save a few bob with the guy that we have in charge right now. But sorry for another day. But let's talk about Inter and Barca. That game is one of the best games that I've watched in a while. And Inter Milan are the kind of side that are more inclined to just sit back and kind of defend and hope for a chance here and there. Those guys were up and down the field. Mkhitaryan had a goal disallowed, a beautiful goal disallowed for being like a toenail offside. like the kind of stupidity that world football needs to kick out. And so, what are your thoughts tomorrow? Do you think Inter will now go home and kind of play a more defensive game, or do you think they're going to go for it and try and finish the game before penalties?
Well, I think Inter will want to finish the game before penalties. Yeah, they also have a number of players who are coming back. Remember, Kalhagnoglu is coming back as well from injury.
Yeah,
I think Jan Bisek is also lining up on the right side of Inter's back three. Some
yeah,
solid changes, and they lost Lautaro Martinez through injury in the first leg. But remember, he's not out. I still probably see he's going to play a role, and
yeah,
away from those selections, I do see Inter going all out. Inzaghi is equally attack minded. I remember him from his playing days. He was a guy with an eye for goal, and that is something that he's now rubbing onto his charges. And playing at home against a Barca side, you don't want to be behind. You want to put them on the back foot. As early as possible. Remember, there's also no away goals rule,
no way
so
goes.
this, this game needs to be finished off, and it will be literally both sides bolting straight out of the bolting straight out of the stables.
Yeah,
Inter going out for the goals. They showed that they can score goals in the first leg. I
yeah.
mean, going to Camp Nou and coming back with 3 goals. What can they do at home? So yeah, I expect Inter to go out guns blazing.
And I think Barca lost Kunde early in the game as well. So they're going to be fully stretched on that back line. I think it's going to be a very open game. I think there's going to be a lot of hard running. I'm going to say 5 goals. And I'm going to say there's going to be 5 goals in that game, even if it's like, regulation and extra time. But I
Yeah.
think Inter will pull this out like 3-2 in an absolute thriller.
Um, yeah. Question: Do Lewandowski is back in contention for place in the starting 11? Do you think he'll have any impact on this game?
I think he'll probably let him come in later in the game. He's just come back from an injury, so probably not risk him as a starter because you still have the firepower on that side. So I think you probably bring him in maybe 60 minutes and let him finish out the game because he doesn't need much. You just need to
Hmm.
get him a half chance. He's one of those strikers that's prolific, right? And he
Yeah.
knows where to be. He can score with his head. He can score with either leg. His movement in the box, I think he'll come off the bench, and I think he'll score a goal tomorrow. So I'm going to put it down to Yamal scoring one in the first half, either Yamal or Rafinha, and then it's going to be Leva with a second goal.
Yeah. So what's your score prediction for tomorrow?
Tomorrow is 3-2. I think it
Three
goes
two
to extra
to
time, and then a goal of maybe a set piece or some random counterattack, which Inter are known for. Some
yeah.
vicious counterattack where
Yeah.
they have like 5 guys up on you and you're 2 defenders and there's nothing you can do. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I
I
think
don't
I
think
think
you don't want to go to penalties. You don't want to take it to penalties.
yeah, you don't want to do that
As good
because
as Soma is, although Soma is a good goalkeeper, but Chesney's also a decent penalty stopper. So
yep.
yeah,
And then, after the first leg, which was energy sapping, again, you don't want to do this, suck the life out of each other. So, yeah, both teams will be going for the kill. I think my score prediction is 2-1 to Barca.
okay.
Yep.
And you know what? We can go either way. I wouldn't be surprised either way. Both coaches rested some of their key players in their games over the weekend.
Yeah,
So all eyes were on this particular game. So I think they'll be fresh and there'll be a lot of running in that game. It should be a good game. So
absolutely.
which pushes us to Wednesday. I'm going to let you lead. What do you think our lineup will be, given the potential injuries to Timba, Marino, and Odegaard?
Um, I think in that context, we probably will see Ben White slotting into the defense.
Hmm.
Ethan Noneri is deserving of a start in this particular fixture. As
Hmm.
for Mikel Merino, what happens there? Do you play Zinchenko?
Maybe you have Trossard play up there, and then you have Zinchenko move into midfield. I think that's the only other fix there because Raheem Sterling should not wear that jersey ever, ever, ever again. He should not get one more minute.
Yeah.
I would rather even go to the kid from the academy than put him there. I'd rather put Kieran Tierney on the wing and tell Martinelli to go and play center forward
Yep.
than give Sterling minutes. But I think I'm scared that this guy might play Thomas Partey at right back. So
We just hope he doesn't
I'm
because
so concerned
yeah,
that he
because
may do that, or he may go. You know what? By the way, Ben White got absolutely rinsed over the weekend.
yeah,
That's the only way to
was it by
describe it.
intent
He's
or
not.
by design?
So it wasn't by intent or design. I think if Timber could have played, he'd have played him. The problem is Timber is absolutely burnt out. You know, the guy's he's running on empty right now, and I don't think he's going to be back. He came back from a big injury. He's played a lot of minutes, so I think honestly that could be risking another big injury. So I'd rather not see him play if he's like 60, 70% fit. But Ben White doesn't look good. He's going to have to play really compact with Saliba, and Declan Rice is going to have to inch over to that side as the defensive cover. So opens up the left side and leaves Kivior and Lewis Skelly a bit uncovered. But I think Kvaratskhelia, for me, is the bigger problem. He's the
Yeah,
most physical winger in world football right now. So
yeah, and remember Ben White also doesn't have the pace to match with Kvaratskhelia. So tough decisions there for Arteta, especially when he says that Timber is out with a small knock, and
yeah,
from his conversations with the press in the run up to the Bournemouth game, he didn't
yeah.
sound confident that that Timber would be back for this match against PSG.
I don't think he's going to be back. I think he's carrying. He went down in the 85th, in the 80 something, or early in the 80 minutes, right? And I
Yeah,
think the problem is that he's been carrying a niggling injury, and the guy just hasn't let him sit down. So now he's in a place where he has to he has to play him. I think Arteta feels like he has to play him, and if you haven't given other people minutes, then and you don't trust your bench players, that's when you put yourself back up against the wall, and like you have to
true.
ride your horses till the end. We said Kai Havertz was the hill he was going to die on. I think now Martin Odegaard is the mountain that he has to climb. So for me, I think Odegaard will start 60, 70% fit, no matter, they'll give him a shot, a booster shot, and tell him to just go and push. So for me, it's just surviving that first half without conceding a goal. And at that time, he just has to be brave and say, you know what, I'm going to give Zinchenko minutes, or I'm going to give Waneri minutes. Waneri probably being the only game breaker that we have on the bench, and probably one of two or three game breakers in the whole side. You talk about somebody who can blow a game open and take it on and do it yourself. We have Saka, Martinelli when he feels like, Declan Rice, and then Ethan Waneri. Everyone else is just a bit part player, just trying to work within a system. So I hope Waneri gets at least 20 to 30 minutes tomorrow, and I'd love to see a goal from him. So,
Yeah, we
Wednesday.
need a lot more. Yeah, we need a lot more action from Noneri, a lot more industry as well, because Odegaard has been missing in action for the past ever since he came back from injury, or as you put it in a previous conversation, ever since the season began. Really, just hasn't been himself.
Yeah, and as a competitive athlete, there are times when you had somebody ahead of you and they just weren't informed, but that's coach's guy, and
Yeah,
coach keeps riding with the guy. And so my other concern long term is that there may be some resentment from some of the players sitting on the bench, and it's not against Odegaard because Odegaard is going to play if he's told to play, right? But I think there's also the locker room that you have to protect. There's the team. Where's the team ethos? Where's trusting your 25 guys? And if I'm a young guy who's watching this and Arsenal come and approach me, I'm probably talking to other options before I go, because if the guy decides he doesn't like me, I go to the end of the bench and it doesn't matter what I do. So I'm hoping for a good result. If the guy somehow pulls this off and he wins the Champions League, I still want him to go.
yeah. totally agreed because look, he's steadied the ship.
Yeah,
I think you now need an experienced captain to take it to the choppier waters of being a championship contender
I
on a
agree.
regular basis. Not only a championship contender, but a championship winning team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And one that's going to compete effectively on all fronts. You can't say that you're out of all the cup finals like early July, no, January, February. You're out of two cup finals. You're left with just Premier League hanging by a thread, and then Champions League. We'll wait and see what happens. We're supposed to be a top club, and I think the signings haven't been good. I'm excited to see what Andrea Berta will do because he's somebody who worked with Diego Simeone, who's known to be one of the more difficult characters in world football. Right? He's a
yeah,
tough person to deal with, and
yeah,
he's a tough
yeah.
coach, tough mentality. So I think maybe even having Berta may force Arteta to change the way he does business, the way he does things. So I'm hoping for the best. Let's come to our predictions for that game. You don't have to be partisan with us. What are your thoughts?
Um, 1-1.
1-1 game, so we lose on aggregate.
Yeah, because I'm concerned with the slip ups that particularly Saliba has made. It's
Yeah,
been consistent over a couple of games. You also feel that he's getting burnt out, and
yeah,
his mental probably just isn't there. And
yeah.
it probably would come from a defensive lapse, that one goal that Arsenal will concede. Because even in some of the victories that they've registered this season, there have been some goals that they have conceded cheaply. Look at the goal against Real Madrid,
Yeah,
for example. This past weekend against Bournemouth, again,
yeah.
yeah. And at this point in time, you need to know when to snuff out your opponent. And you just feel that
Mhm.
it might probably be too much of an ask. But hey, that's how I see it.
I'm hoping for a 2-1 win. My heart tells me we'll lose 1-0. No, we'll probably lose 2-0, but I'm hoping for a 2-1 win. But my prediction is that we lose 2-0 at home, unfortunately. Because I just think Ben White is going to get worked over real bad down that side. And Saliba has to now overcompensate. Then I think there'll be a lot of space in that pocket just in front of the box where the defenders are collapsing because everybody's going to be collapsing. Then there'll be those trailing runners. Fabian Ruiz is really good at timing his runs into the box. Vitinha and João Neves have a mad work rate. So, and then that's not even talking about Nuno Mendes and Hakimi, who track up and down the field. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the wings and in the center, and I think there's going to be space outside. And if they're going to shoot that ball from outside the box, Raya is going to get tested tomorrow. So I do hope we win. I do hope it's a win, and I don't want to go to penalties because Raya is a clown when it comes to penalties. I don't know
And
if you
also
watched
some of
his.
our penalty takers.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched his last shootout.
I did, and yeah, it was fortuitous that it ended as it did.
Yeah,
That's the one thing that he was not blessed with,
yeah.
doing the
Um,
penalties.
our penalty takers. You know what? I'm not comfortable with Odegaard. Saka, after what he did the last game, Saka will lead. So Saka is the man. Saka will step up and take that first penalty. But outside of that, maybe Rice. Who else are you giving a penalty to? Martinelli, if he's still on the field. Waneri is
Trossard.
probably man enough to step up and say he wants to take one. Trossard, if he's on. So I don't
I
want to
think
go to penalties.
I'd give Kivior over over Partey.
Honestly, I don't know who would be worse.
Yeah,
I hope we wouldn't find out.
yeah,
But Kivior does strike the ball well.
yeah,
So I think that's what I like about him. He strikes the ball well. But that is it from us. I think looking forward to a post game review, then a season review, and then I'll
yeah.
start our match analysis or at least our trade analysis once a week going forward, and we can keep this going, guys. If you're not
Absolutely.
following Michael, he has a rugby channel 254 Rugby on YouTube. and Instagram. He's doing a lot of good content out there. If you want to see more of this, like, subscribe, and follow my channel and Mike's channel. We do a lot of work together, and looking forward to having you guys watch us and comment. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, guys.